Welcome to the Ebs of History, the show where we dive into the strangest, wildest, and sometimes downright creepiest stories the past has to offer. From dancing plagues to pirate queens, we'll laugh, we'll gasp, but most importantly, we will learn how history is way cooler than your textbook ever told you. We're your history-loving hosts, Jason,
Zoe, and Gavin.
Where every episode, the three of us will take a quick trip through time, then see what lessons we can still learn today. This is the Ebs of History. Let's start with who we are. I'm your host, Jason. I love everything historical. The who's, the when's, and the why's. I've been a history lover for as long as I can remember. My favorite era to study is the Norman Conquest, the time when William, the Duke of Normandy, conquered England, and what that meant then, and how it still reverberates today almost 1,000 years later. So Zoe, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Zoe. I am 15 years old, and I'm in the 10th grade. I am currently very interested in drama and the theatrical arts, but my favorite part of history to study is World War II and the Cold War era, because you can see the effects of everything that happened nowadays, and there's even documents and pictures that solidify in my mind that happened, and you can still see the effects reverberating today, which I find is just so cool.
Oh, I love that. All right, Gavin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Gavin. I'm 12 years old. I'm in the 7th grade. My favorite part about history, I don't really have a favorite part. I just like learning about it. All of history fascinates me.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good thing. You're curious. That's what it comes down to. You can't really pinpoint one thing, and that's perfectly fine. For me, for example, I've liked a couple different eras over periods of time. I've really kind of settled into the medieval portions of history, and that includes William the Conqueror, and that's in the early Middle Ages. So yeah, it's okay to not have a favorite one, and you can always change. And who knows, you're only 12 years old, right? So you might actually find something as you're studying, as you're going along, because you haven't even taken American history yet, right?
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I'm kind of like you. Throughout each grade, I've been kind of hopping through, I really like this, I really like this. And I haven't been able to pinpoint what I like the most yet.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been watching a lot of stuff with my dad about World War II, and that's really fascinates me. Mm-hmm. But I also like medieval and Egyptian and all that ancient stuff.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Zoe? I know you've had a couple different ones throughout your life.
Oh, yes. When I was about 7 years old, I went through a very big Pompeii phase because there's a board game called Pompeii, and it was my favorite game, so we watched so much History Channel stuff about it, and I was just so interested. And then I got really into ancient Egypt for the longest time. That was my favorite part of history for so long. And then last year in school, it really took a turn to World War II, Cold War, because of the previous reasons that I stated. But I am currently taking AP European History, and I'm really enjoying that course. I'm kind of shifting over to French Revolution right now because we're learning about it, and it's just so fascinating. And again, you can still see the ramifications of the governments that were built during that time period and how the status quo is from that time period and how it set fashion. Even you may think Revolutionary War, it was just about bread and stuff and like getting rights, but you can still, everything was influenced by the higher states, and it's just, it's fun.
Yeah. It's really interesting how things that have happened in history, even hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, affect us today. And, the things that are happening around us every day have historical precedents. And we're going to go over some things like that in some future episodes. There's actually a study of that specific topic. So we'll go over that in the future. But today, for our very first episode, we're going to start with a dark, creepy one. Kind of excited about this one. We're going to look at an event that even seasoned historians struggle to tell without shaking their heads. Because yes, this really did happen. It's just nuts. Imagine a courtroom where the defendant is a skeleton wearing a crown. Today, we're talking about the Cadaver Synod, a trial for a dead pope. Not dead tired, not spiritually dead, actually, physically, rotting, stinking, dead.
That's crazy.
Right?
Oh, that description.
Right? A pope dug up a body of another pope, dressed him in robes, and put him on trial in a real courtroom.
It's funny how they dressed him up.
Uh-huh.
Why did he think that was necessary? What was his crime?
Well, we're going to go into that. Yeah, that's part of the story. All right. Now, do you guys know what CE means?
I do.
Yeah? What's that?
It means common era.
Very good. And have you guys ever heard of BCE?
Yes.
Before Common Era.
That's right. AD is Latin for Annos Domini, which means the year of the Lord. So the AD and BC, it was before Christ, was all Christian-centered, which in history, there's so many religions. It's just Christianity has become very prominent, and it's a very Christian-centric historical stances. So historians have recently gone to using Common Era and before Common Era, and the year 0 is that demarcation between the two.
I just want to say something. I remember learning about that AD and the BCE in 6th grade, just about a year ago. And I don't really remember the name. It is a really tough thing to remember, but I do know what it is. Yeah.
It's even a tough thing for me to remember. I always flip between AD and the BCE.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep straight in your mind because there is 2 ways to say it. So you just have to flip your brain whoever you're talking to. Because some people still use the AD.
See, you're even confusing it during our podcast.
I know.
And it's totally understandable because, you know, people like me, I've used AD and BC my entire life until recently, maybe the last 10, 15 years. But still today, there are people that refuse to say CE and BCE. They still say AD, you know, for whatever reasons, but it's hard and you have to actually stop and think. Well, moving on. 897 CE, Rome. Rome at this time is the heart of Christendom. Even today it is. But at the time, it was also a political war zone wrapped in incense and marble. The papacy at this time isn't the serene, stable institution that you might picture today. It's absolute chaos. Popes come and go like bad weather, some dying mysteriously, others chased out of Rome, and a few meeting sticky ends that would make a Game of Thrones writer blush. Enter Pope Formosus. Pope Formosus had been pope from 891 to 896. During this time, he wasn't exactly beloved by everyone. He'd gotten tangled in all sorts of messy church politics, backing the wrong noble here, supporting the wrong Holy Roman Emperor there. Basically, he made powerful enemies. One family in particular, the Spoletans. Now, the Spoletans were a dynasty from central Italy who thought they owned the papacy. At one point, Pope Formosus had supported a rival Holy Roman Emperor, Arnulf of Carinthia, instead of who the Spoletans wanted, Duke Lambert, the eldest and heir to the Spoletan dynasty. Basically, they wanted their own son as the pope.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They held a grudge against Pope Formosus because of this, and that caused a lot of tension in and around Rome. When Pope Formosus died in 896, Rome probably sighed a huge sigh of relief. Surely the drama was over, right?
Surely.
Yeah.
Wrong.
What?
Just a few months later, a new pope, Pope Stephen VI, or sometimes called Pope Stephen VII, depending on how you count, which is a whole other story, takes the throne with the help of the Spoletan dynasty. Pope Stephen hated Pope Formosus. You see, Pope Stephen was a backer of the Spoletan dynasty. It's why they helped him become the new pope. So when Duke Lambert and his mother, the formidable Agiltrude, came marching into Rome, Pope Stephen saw a golden opportunity to give his thanks and prove his loyalty. Any questions so far on this?
Not really.
Yeah.
You've been
Nope.
explaining it pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So, what are some of the ways that you think you can show thanks and loyalty in 9th century Rome?
Maybe you can give them luxurious foods like grapes. There's a lot of art depicting grapes being a luxury.
Very good, yeah. Zoe?
You could probably sing your praises of the Pope to not have you get executed, because that sounds like something popes in this era would do. Because if you go against the Pope and the papal authority, then you would be like, off with her head.
Yeah, that's right. Or, as the Pope, you're in control of land. You can give the Spolitans more lands if they wanted. Or you could basically do whatever that they asked to show your loyalty to them.
Yeah. I've been learning in school lately that religious leaders had a lot of power, maybe in some cases more than the king or emperor.
That is absolutely right. Yeah.
And with that power, they did far more brutal punishments to people that disobeyed them.
Well, I'm going to let you guys in on something. That all these little ideas that we have that could have been really easily done and not really involved anybody else but the Spolitans and the Pope. That's not how Pope Stephen decided to go. He wanted to show his loyalty in a different way.
Okay.
Oh boy.
He decided to show his loyalty to the Spolitans by holding a trial for someone that they hated. His dead predecessor, Pope Formosus.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right? 9 months after Formosus's death, Pope Stephen had his corpse dug up from its grave, dressed up in papal robes, papal crown, vestments, everything, and then seated on a throne in the Basilica of St. John Lateran. Picture it. On one side, you see the skeletal body of Pope Formosus. Skin dried out and stretched like parchment.
It's gross.
I do not want to be part of that jury.
Right? The papal crown constantly falling down because it sits atop a dried out skull. You smell the pungent decay of human flesh. You also get a faint whiff of incense that is attempting to, but wholly failing, at covering up the stench.
Oh, you can't see me now, but I'm shaking my head. That is nasty.
It's not going to work. You can't cover up stench with some sage. It's not going to work.
On the other side, you see the current Pope, Pope Stephen, very much alive, furious, unhinged even, standing across from the rotting corpse. This is all, of course, play acting on Pope Stephen's part. He's just trying to stay in the good graces of one of the most powerful families in all of Rome. However, this wasn't just a symbolic act to gather favor with the Spolitans. This was actually a real trial. They even appointed a deacon of the church to act as Pope Formosus's defense attorney. Imagine being that guy, right? Your job is to defend a corpse. This trial was at what was called a synod. Now, a synod is a very big deal. It wasn't just a meeting or a quick hangout with some of your friends. A synod is a formal ecclesiastical council, an official gathering of all the important higher-ups of the church. The Pope, obviously, cardinals, bishops, etc. They all gather and they make the biggest decisions of the church. Decisions that set the future course of the church for centuries to come.
Just for clarification, is this in the Vatican as we know today? Is it in the same location as the Vatican, or is it in a different location?
You know what? I'm actually not sure where the basilica that they're in right now is at.
Because isn't the current basilica in Vatican?
It is, yes. And I don't know too much about the Vatican history. I do know that St. Peter's Basilica, which is the main part, was there then because that's where they disinterred Pope Formosus from, because that's where he was buried.
Okay.
So it existed, and I do believe, I remember reading something about there was a fire, and so at the time they were using this other space.
So this was like an in-between period of basilicas?
Yeah. It was like a rental basilica.
Okay.
Great question.
Good to know.
Yeah. Whatever the verdict the synod came to would change everything that had happened in the 5 years that Pope Formosus was in charge and reshape the church's power in Pope Stephen's favor. This dude knew exactly what he was doing. What was the dead pope accused of? What were his crimes? What do you think Pope Stephen came up with?
He probably made up something like he didn't follow the right of God, or he wasn't serving God as he was supposed to, as Pope quote-unquote should.
Yeah.
And he's just better for the Christians.
Okay. Gavin?
Contrary to what Zoe said, I think it could be some like weird, obscure, bogus reason that they came up with in some like random thing that was maybe not true, or it was true, but it was no big deal.
Right.
But they made it a big deal.
All right. Well, the list was long and mostly nonsensical, like you guys are saying, but there were 3 main charges. The first one being perjury. Do you guys know what perjury means?
No, I don't.
Lying. Perjury is lying. At one point in Formosus' career, in an earlier political kerfuffle, he was excommunicated from the church.
A pope excommunicated?
That's right.
That's crazy.
That's right.
That's really interesting, actually.
How crazy is it that this man was excommunicated from the church, but eventually became the pope? That's how crazy things were back in this time. It was all over the place. It was like the American Wild West.
Yeah.
Right? As part of his excommunication, he promised never to act as a priest and to never come back to Rome.
By the way, for people that don't know, excommunicated is someone that's practically banned from the church. They can't come back.
Very good.
Yeah.
So he couldn't act as a priest and never come back to Rome. He did both of those things, obviously.
Yeah.
Number 2, breaking canon law. Pope Formosus was the bishop of another church when he became pope. According to Pope Stephen, this was against the rules. Do you think that makes sense?
I mean, if you're going to be the leader of a religion, you probably shouldn't be a priest for another one, right?
Well, no, that's not what Pope Stephen's saying. Pope Stephen is saying, you were the bishop of this church when you were elected pope.
But it's the same religion?
Same religion.
Oh.
Right? Popes usually don't come from any other profession, right?
Yeah.
Other than the church.
Uh-huh.
This isn't a Ken Beach situation. Like,
Yeah.
I beach. No,
Like...
he churches. It's the same thing. There's no way that you can not be a bishop, basically, of another church in the same religion when you're elected. It's just...
Yeah.
It's a trumped up charge. And the last one, illegally becoming the pope. His political enemies, including the Spolitans, claimed that he had usurped the papacy. Basically came in and said, okay, I'm the pope now. So those are the 3 main charges.
But did he do that final charge, or was it a fair voting how a normal pope gets elected?
Back then, I'm pretty sure there was probably some usurping from everybody.
Yeah.
But he also probably had his backers and, elected cardinals and things like that.
Okay.
It doesn't matter at this point whether these charges are true or not. This man is dead.
Yeah.
He's being tried for them when he's dead. That's called posthumously. He's being tried posthumously.
Yeah. The thing is, in the actual trial sense, what's the point of testing him if he's already dead? There's no punishment. You can't throw him in jail. He'll just be a rotting corpse in the corner of the cell.
That's right. So basically, Stephen claimed that Formosus never had the right to be pope at all. That's the general idea. The court proceedings were as grotesque as they were absurd. Stephen shouted questions at the corpse, accusing him of betrayal and sacrilege, and every time, the deacon had to answer on behalf of the dead body.
Yes.
My client, he's unable to respond, Your Holiness. He's dead. And the crowd of the clergy, soldiers, and maybe a few horrified onlookers just watched in utter disbelief. Unsurprisingly, the verdict was guilty. The dead guy couldn't defend himself.
Yeah.
So Pope Stephen declared that all of Formosus' acts as pope were null and void. Everything that Formosus had done. One of the biggest issues was that all of his ordinations were done, meaning that every bishop and priest ordained by Pope Formosus was suddenly illegitimate and no longer bishops or priests. Dozens of clerics lost their positions overnight.
That's not fair, Getting your job stripped away from you because a dead man couldn't defend himself in court over something that was just, he's dead. Can't defend himself.
Exactly.
There's no chance of him winning.
But that wasn't enough. Pope Stephen, the pope-turned-prosecutor, wanted to humiliate Formosus. Pope Stephen had Formosus stripped of his sacred vestments, the 3 fingers on his right hand, the ones that he would use for blessing people. he had them cut off. The body was dragged through the streets of Rome and finally tossed into the Tiber River.
Really? His 3 fingers probably would have decayed off at one point.
You'd think that would be the end of the whole ordeal.
Yeah, you would think.
Pope Stephen got to show off for the Spolitans and erase Pope Formosus from history. But nope. Because, according to legend, Formosus didn't stay gone. A few months later, fishermen reportedly found Formosus's body washed up on the banks. And as was usually protocol in the Middle Ages, miracles began to be whispered. People claimed that the body was performing healings. And so the legend of the vengeful pope was born. Now here's where things take a little bit of another dark turn.
Another one?
Oh. But this time in the other direction. The grotesque spectacle of the Cadaver Synod shocked all of Rome. Even in a brutal, superstitious age that was medieval Europe, this was too much. The people turned on Pope Stephen and riots broke out. Crowds demanded vengeance for the desecrated corpse of Pope Formosus. Stephen was imprisoned, and soon after, he was strangled to death in his cell.
Oh. By who?
By the people that were rioting.
Oh, wow.
They basically didn't like it so much and thought it was such an egregious mishandling of justice that they arrested him, imprisoned him, and killed him.
Wow.
Another crazy fact was that when the fishermen had found Formosus's body and the claims of miracles happening had started, they never moved his body. They just left it there, right where it was. But now that Stephen was dead, Formosus's body was retrieved from the river and reburied with honor in St. Peter's Basilica.
I would not want to be fishing there. I would be stinky. Woo!
At least he was buried. At least he wasn't just laying there forever.
How do you not move a body when you find it? Even back then.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, that's just disgusting. The ultimate piece of litter on the ground. Just a dead body.
That's right.
That no one moved.
A year later, in 898, the next pope, Pope John IX, the third pope in 2 years, mind you, convened another synod. This one was called the Synodus Restitutionis, which annulled everything that had happened at the Cadaver Synod entirely, restoring Pope Formosus's honorifics, he was once again a pope, and banned posthumous trials. Never again could a dead cadaver be put on trial.
I mean,
at least in the church.
Good thing.
Because if you guys remember correctly, it happened in England later on when Charles II disinterred Oliver Cromwell and put him on trial.
I forgot about that. Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
So this is just the church, but again, it doesn't mean that things like this didn't happen later on. There's other ways to try and erase history.
It obviously doesn't work. We're talking about it now, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This shows how unstable Rome had become in this time. Between 872 and 965, which is less than 100 years, there were more than 20 popes.
Wow.
Murder, bribery, and blackmail were common tools of papal politics. As one medieval chronicler put it, the papacy was a corpse in the hands of corrupt men. Yeah. How fitting, right?
Yeah, that just shows how corrupt it is. Like, more than 20 popes in the span of 100 years. Yeah. And like you said earlier, 3 popes in 2 years. That's crazy. That's too much. Like,
there's been,
imagine
3, 4... In my lifetime, I'm in my 40s. There have been 3 or 4 popes.
Oh, wow. That's
maybe
crazy.
4 popes. Yeah. And that's normal now. Back then, sometimes popes would be around for only months.
Yeah. Imagine the king or queen of England. There is 3 king or queens in the span of 2 years. That's so much change in such a little time. That's so much for the government, you know? There's
a lot of logistics that go around between popes, changing of popes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's complete chaos back then.
Yeah, it is a really big process that takes place.
Yeah. For centuries, the Cadaver Synod stood as one of the darkest stains on church history. It's been referenced in sermons, plays, and even horror fiction. But modern historians see it as a window into how fragile institutions can become when personal vendettas and political paranoia take over. It's also, let's admit, a bit of a dark comedy. A courtroom scene where the defendant is literally falling apart, the accuser screaming at a skeleton, and everyone pretending it's business as usual.
Imagine that courtroom drama.
It shows how power and revenge can make people forget justice and dignity. Even leaders make bizarre mistakes.
Yeah. That's just a crazy story.
So, the story's over. Zoe, what do you think this was all really about?
I think it was really just about power and Pope Stephen showing that he has total authority, and if you disobey him, if you do any of the little petty charges that this dead corpse was laid for, that's what it's going to happen to you as well. So it's almost like a fear tactic to keep his reign stable and make sure he stays in power for as long as possible.
Yeah, you're right. It's power, pure and simple. The Cadaver Synod wasn't about theology. It was about who controlled the papacy. Gavin?
I agree a lot with Zoe with the power and the fear factor. And I also feel it's kind of just petty a bit. You know, it's just bringing a dead man out of his grave to put him on trial for something that he can't defend. He might have not even done. And just, yeah.
In the late 9th century, which is the late 800s, the Pope wasn't a distant spiritual leader like he is today. He was a political chess piece. Every noble family wanted their man on the throne of St. Peter. And if that meant exhuming a dead pope and putting him on trial to right some perceived wrong, then so be it. How do you guys think this ties into today?
So I was thinking when you were talking about people losing when everything was null and void of what he was saying, how it connected to COVID and how millions of people were losing their jobs because of something that they couldn't control.
Oh, yeah.
And I also thought when people started protesting against and throwing riots against the Pope, I connected that in my brain to people protesting against ICE and Trump in the big cities and how people were standing up for stuff that they didn't believe in and wanted out of power, and they
didn't think it was right, and so they protested against
exactly
it. But back in the Middle Ages, it went from riot to arrest to death within a couple days.
Yeah.
A little bit different today, a little bit
different, but still main principles.
Yeah. All right, Gavin?
I do, again, agree a lot with Zoe. It's similar to COVID. But the COVID thing, it's kind of a natural force. That's not an actual person's decision. That's, sure, it may have been started accidentally by a person, but they didn't know. They wouldn't have started it. But COVID is very similar to losing all the jobs.
Yeah. Interesting take. What came to my mind was the erasure of history. Today, back then, Pope Stephen tried to erase the fact that Pope Formosus was ever the Pope. Erasing history.
Yeah.
We see that today here in America. Our current government is literally rewriting history that is told at the museums. They're erasing inconvenient truths and ugly parts of our history in favor of a glorious story that simply isn't true. Everyone knows the famous quote by philosopher George Santayana. You might not know the name, but you know the quote. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. We have to, as lovers of history, defend the telling of the truth, even if we don't like the story that it tells.
Over this summer, we went to the Reagan Library, which was a very interesting culmination of the presidency.
Yes.
And there was one specific part about the Iran controversy, and how it basically erased and made Reagan on a pedestal and made him seem like the driving force, and how he did it all when it really he just signed the deal during that time. Is that how it went? I can't remember.
A little bit off. You're on the right track. It was the Iran-Contra scandal where Reagan was selling arms to bad guys, basically. And the Reagan Museum, kind of erased that. It didn't even talk anything about it. It was a huge deal. If things were different back then, It was an impeachable offense and a jailable offense, what Ronald Reagan did. And that's historical fact.
Because
it was completely erased from that museum, which was really interesting. So yeah, you're absolutely right. This is,
Because I remember learning about that Contra scandal in my world history class, and then during that school year, and then we went there, and I was like, something was missing. And then we talked about it in the car ride back, and we're like, oh my gosh, that was completely erased. And it made him seem like it just wasn't there. He was the hero in the situation.
The hero that did nothing wrong. But, and then there were other times from his presidency where, like, he was talking at the Berlin Wall, and that was highlighted beyond belief there. So, it's you got to think about who's telling the story and what their agenda is.
Because history is written by the winners.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's like one of my favorite quotes and things to keep in mind when I'm learning about history is it's written by the winners. Like it's you only hear stories from the nobles and the priests and the popes and the kings and the queens, and we almost never hear from the peasants. Like you never hear from them because they're not winners.
In a future episode, we're gonna go over what that's called. Like it's called historiography. Can't even say it. But we're going to go over it in a little bit more depth and talk about it. So, Gavin.
Again with the libraries, when we went there wasn't any things bad about Reagan. And that's the same with other libraries. There's stuff that was bad that happened to him, like the assassination attempt. I remember a room where that was a whole room about that.
Right, and they had his suit there that he was wearing when he was, they attempted to assassinate him. Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's just, they only show the good parts of his presidency.
That's right. And there were bad parts.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who it was. It could be back in the, early 800s or in the 80s. Both sides. There's two sides to a story, always.
And something focused on that person, it's not going to show the bad side.
Well, why would you? At the same time, why would you?
Yeah.
As a person who loves history, I don't like that, but I can see why they did it.
Definitely.
In this case, it's a presidential library that's celebrating this man. Yeah. You don't really want to put in the bad things.
Yeah.
This is just to show that you have to be skeptical, right? All right, on to our next segment, the Fun Fact Challenge. Ooh, you guys didn't know this was coming, did you?
No, we didn't.
I have not been writing notes.
Oh, God, okay.
All right. When I ask a question, I want you to say locked in, and the first one to lock in will be able to answer.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Which pope ordered the Cadaver Synod?
Locked in.
Gavin?
Pope Stephen?
Correct. Pope Stephen the 6th or the 7th, depending on how you count. Next question. Question 2. What were the 3 main charges against Pope Formosus?
Locked in.
Zoe, give me one.
Perjury is the fancy word, but lying is the easier one to remember.
That's right. Gavin, you got one?
He was a part of another church.
Yep, he was the bishop of another church when he became the pope. Yeah. Correct. Zoe, since you locked in first, you can give me the third one.
Him basically taking the church and saying it's mine now. Serpency?
Yeah.
Usurpancy.
I love the word that you just created. It's usurped.
Usurped.
Oh. Serpency, I need to start using in my everyday life. I love that. Yeah. Last question. Question 3. It's tied right now. What happened to Pope Stephen afterward?
Locked in.
Zoe.
There were riots in the streets, and he eventually got strangled by the common folk.
By the angry mob, that's right.
Oh, I knew that. I didn't lock in time.
This day in history. Today is January 1st. I'm going to tell you guys 3 huge things that happened on today first throughout history. The first one, and most important one, January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Gavin, do you know what the Emancipation Proclamation is?
Was that to abolish slavery?
That is correct. 3 or 4 months earlier, they had kind of a temporary emancipation.
Yeah.
But it didn't apply to everyone. It was kind of what they call a stopgap, and Lincoln was trying to appease some people. It wasn't a federal law at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now it is.
January 1st, 1863, it became law. Officially became the law.
I did not know it was on January 1st. Yep. I mean, it makes sense because the new year turned over.
Exactly.
Yeah. It definitely makes sense.
Yep.
This stuff happened most of the time. You never really know the date, the exact date it happened.
The other two things that happened on this day stem from that exact same thing, where it's the beginning of the year, so it's going to start there, which leads us to number 2. January 1st, 1892. The first immigrants arrive at Ellis Island.
Ooh.
Annie Moore, a teenager from Ireland, becomes the first immigrant to be processed at Ellis Island. Isn't that cool? Like, I know it's easy, it's just all paperwork, but they know exactly who it was, the first person that was processed through Ellis Island.
Yeah, I mean, it in the sense of history, it really wasn't that long ago.
No.
Like, they do probably still have the records, and it's been preserved until now.
Yeah, 134 years ago?
Yeah, like, in the sense of history, again, that's not a long time at all.
No.
That's only a blink of the eye.
Yes.
I mean, like, the face of history.
I mean, like, what we talked about today, we hadn't even hit the like, thousands yet. This was in 1800. Like, we haven't hit that yet. This is 1,000 years ahead. The Ellis Island thing was like 1,000 years ahead of what happened, what we talked about today.
What we discussed today on Cadaver Synod.
Yeah. It's just crazy that we have so much history. Yes. The world has so much history.
Yeah, it's crazy that we can figure that out because these records have been preserved or stories have been passed down through generations of history that took place 1,000, 2,000 years ago. There's still evidence in, like, the pyramids of the ancient Egyptians, and
we're still learning.
Yeah, we've been able to figure out so much about all these things in the past, and yet there's still so much more that we can learn.
And the last thing that happened on January 1st, major thing, a bunch of other stuff happened, of course, but the euro debuted in Europe. Now, do you guys know why they use the euro?
Is it to connect the European Union in a way?
It is a little bit, but the impetus for it, what started it all, was Europe is small. That area, that is the European Union today, is really small.
Yeah.
Especially compared to America.
Yeah.
Think about if, we live in California and we're next to Arizona and Nevada and we're close to Utah. Imagine we had California dollars and went to Arizona and we couldn't spend them there. We'd have to get Arizona dollars.
Yeah.
And then we went to Nevada and we had to get Nevada dollars. That's what it was like. So they decided to create the euro so that there's one currency for this whole entire area.
So it's just unified?
It's so that it's unified. Yep.
We've been going over this kind of topic of unification by simple things like language. We've been learning about parts of the Middle East in my class. And they've been unifying with same currency like that and same language. Little things, well, not really little, but these things can connect people from country to country.
That's right.
And it's a lot more convenient with all the euros, like your California dollars and the Nevada dollars.
Thanks for traveling through time with us on the Ebs of History. If you like today's story, share it with your teacher, a friend, or your family on Instagram at Ebs of History. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, show ideas, or just want to chat, you can contact us at questions@ebsofhistory.com.
Signing off, this has been your co-hosts, Zoe,
Gavin,
and me, Jason, reminding you that history isn't just about the dates and battles. It's about people, curiosity, and the weird, wonderful choices that shaped our world. Until next time, keep wondering, laughing, and learning through the Ebs of History.